if the vampire pack that had slain everyone in your remote Alaskan town had fled to their cargo ship and taken off back to their home base in Los Angeles, what would you do? In this How to Beat video, I'm gonna break down the mistakes the bloodpack and the vampire queen made, what you should do, and how to beat the vampires in 30 Days of Night, Dark Days. We start out following Stella Olsen after she held her vampirified husband, Eben, while he disintegrated in the sun's warm glow. Stella's in a bit of an awkward spot. As the sole survivor, only she knows the 98 men, women, and children were chewed up and left in pieces, or were turned into vampires. Apparently, with the town burned up and presumably anyone who had vampire teeth sunk into burned up in the sunlight as well, the new NPCs started repopulating and rebuilding the town without much question. Nobody believed her fantastical stories of vampires. Look, I'm not saying that I would straight up believe her, but come on. If vampires were real, this is the perfect town to hit. 30 Days a Night, it's remote, limited means of making a distress call or getting help from outside, and realistically, what the hell would have happened and caused nearly 100 innocent townsfolk to perish? Yet would also cause most of the evidence to evaporate, yet there still would be evidence, because there has to be a vampire body in a basement, or the refinery which didn't burn up in the sun, or blood leakage that wasn't vampirified of the massacred people strewn all over town. What about the dude who took a nosedive in the Muffin Monster, or the corn dog at the radio station? The evidence of the comms that were sabotaged? A handful of psychos could not have pulled this off because they'd have needed guns, which fired bullets, which would leave shell casings and bullet-filled bodies. It just doesn't make any sense. What the f even was the official story? If there was one, there was no big shot mayor. The only survivor in person to tell the tale was Stella. Well, as any good wife would, Stella fully intends to seek vengeance, to bring war to the vampires who'd fled back to their boat and to wipe them off the face of the earth. I should hope so. I should well hope that my loved ones, my friends, and my poodle named Toast don't Erica Kirk me and forgive these monsters on stage. After a pyrotechnics display, of course. The world needs more Marianne Bachmeyers. My expectation upon my untimely demise is for those near and dear to me to hold grudges and to exact retribution. My final will, for the last impact that I'll have on this plane of existence, is for those who have wronged me to suffer before they die at a young age.
Terminate with extreme prejudice.
Where was I? Nerds. I've been dropping money on games lately. Maybe a bit too much. Steam sales.
Damn good deal.
DLC. Cheap early access titles.
Holy jeez. What the fuck is that?
With PC and console gaming, the money just flows out.
But then there's the other kind of gaming.
Sitting on the couch, laying in bed, waiting around somewhere, killing 10 to 20 minutes. You're still playing, but you're not taking it seriously. And normally, that time goes nowhere. This video's sponsor, Cash Giraffe, inverts that. It's a free gaming rewards app that lets you earn real money just for playing legit mobile games. They're fun casual games that you'd already play when you're hanging out killing minutes. Except now, while you're leveling up, you're earning gems in the background. I downloaded it, picked a game, and you can literally see the gems stacking as you play. The setup is simple. Download the app for free. No fees, no ads, no credit card. You gotta give permission so it can track your game progress. That's just how it knows that you're playing. But they don't share your personal data. You pick a game, play, earn gems, and cash out through PayPal, Amazon gift cards, and more. You only need an email to receive rewards. No extra steps. They also have daily and weekend promos where you can earn extra gems during bonus events. You can cash out starting at around 30 cents, so you're not waiting forever. They've already paid out over $10 million to users, and here's how it works. Cash Giraffe is transparent about their business model. They partner with game developers who want more players. Those developers pay Cash Giraffe, and Cash Giraffe shares a portion of that revenue back with you. If you're already mobile gaming in your downtime, this is an easy way to recoup a little scratch that you can use to fund the next game that your friend wants to play for one time, or some necessities off Amazon. Use the link at the top of the description to download Cash Giraffe, get up to 3,999 gems to start, and start earning cash. Stella's rocking the PTSD-stricken Guilty Survivor Starter Pack, a motel room with a variety pack of antipsychotic pills and a Glock. Don't worry, she's good, just prepping for tonight's show. See, the vampires who escaped apparently told all the other vampires about Stella. They know who she is, and they don't like that she's trying to blow the whistle. That's why a few of them always show up to her TED Talks about vampires in the Arctic Circle, which is why she rigged up a couple rows of overhead SunMax UV lights. Who's laughing now? I just hope she got this on camera. I'd have maybe told everyone to get out their phones and start recording first. That way, our credibility will be boosted once the videos hit World Star Hip Hop, giving us the maximum chance of going viral on social media. It sure sucks that the vampires aren't isolated to a boat floating up in Alaska that we can hit with some paid mercs. They seem to be basically everywhere, from Philadelphia on the East Coast to California on the West Coast and everywhere in between. To Stella's strategy, she simply can't tackle all of them on her own. Killing a couple here and there at your shows is not gonna make a dent. Heavily investing in ultraviolet light emitter companies, then achieving global awareness of the vampire threat are the most important objectives right now. If we can get to a point where local PDs can start assembling SWAT anti-vampire task forces that can locally cross-check each case of unsolved missing persons, we can begin to root them out and also make a lot of money on our investments. Stella walks outside to a full police response in mere minutes after the show. The FBI detective brings her back to the station for interrogation. I guess I was optimistic.
If it were up to me, I'd choke you with my bare hands and bury you in the desert.
Relax, guy.
Okay, back to the motel. Stella makes the mistake of 1, walking into her dark motel room, closing the door, then turning on the lights, and 2, leaving her gun on a motel room nightstand where it's of exactly zero use. The strangers introduce themselves as Paul, Todd, and Amber. They say Dane sent them. They're the Incorruptibles, the blood pack of vampire hunters that have been doing a bit of killing ever since they lost their loved ones years back and the police didn't do shit. Maybe Dane should have given you my phone number so you can send a text instead of breaking into my motel room. If the gun that Stella had left on the nightstand was her backup second gun and was in fact carrying another piece in her waistband, this introduction would have gone a lot differently.
Ahora vas a conocer a Dios.
I mean, Jesus Christ, the woman is clearly on edge. Amber thinks Stella's a pansy, so she goes outside for a swig. Out of the corner of her eye, she notices a white as my cheeks man jumping off the rooftop next to her. She quickly runs inside and warns the others. Everyone racks their unloaded gats and stands right up next to the door. No way the vampire is stupid enough to peek his head in. Cool. I don't know what that vampire was thinking. Way to announce your arrival in the most vampire way possible. No hoodie up, wearing a long black coat, silhouetting yourself on the roof, then jumping off the roof. All you had to do was walk around the rooftop to position yourself behind Amber in between her and the motel room, then jump down on top of her and bite her neck. Or just snipe her. You're a vampire, not a zombie. And Stella isn't mere food, she's a high-value target that you've been sent to assassinate, so she can't continue to shine a proverbial light on your species' existence. Set up a bolty on the rooftop, then pop her when she inevitably walks out. Duh, what an idiot. As for the blood pack, I would not be standing that close to the door. All the vamp would have had to do is forcefully kick the door open, and it would knock all of you on your ass. Or he could just shoot through the door. There's no reason to stand that close. Just back up a bit. Give yourself some space. I'm assuming based on the volume of fire that the vamps could take a hit or two. Couple that with their super speed, and the vamp could get a bite in before it dies. For that matter, I'd be tucking a shotgun with a handheld UV light duct taped under my jacket like John Connor. The tactical UV light's not going to be powerful enough to kill it. It's more for positive target identification for any vamps skulking around pretending to be human. And in my trunk, I'd be packing a car battery-powered Sunmax that I can use to disintegrate any of my vampire kills. I don't know if the vamps return to human form after you smoke them. Not that you could tell with this vampire anymore, but, you know, others that you shoot in the gut. In which case, I don't need to be leaving bodies and evidence in my wake. Stella volunteers to join the V-Hunters. Not like she had a choice. In the car, the hunters tell Stella that the FBI are full of so-called bug eaters. Humans like Ben Foster who were promised immortality if they do the vampire's bidding. Ah, that makes sense. Dude's got that terminal illness cough. They're hunting Lilith, the queen bee, in hopes that it'll disorganize the vamps and make them easier targets. Paul says Dane, whoever the f that is helping them track her whereabouts here in Los Angeles. Of course she lives in LA. Why do I suspect that Dane is a defecting vampire? Yep, god damn it guys, you really need to stop surprising Stella. That is twice in one night that you've almost gotten yourselves and your lead man beamed. Bro's acting all surprised that Stella's not chill running into another vamp. Are you kidding me? Stella asks how he feeds. Dane walks over to the mini fridge and shows her his stock of Capri Suns. How ethical. Dane then shows her his stock of weaponry. I call dibs on the flintlock. Said nobody. I mean, it's good enough for busting up a dope house, but you're assaulting the head bitch of darkness and her army of goons. A Ruger LCP, a Walmart machete, and a 400-year-old flintlock should not be in your armory. Dane unfolds a map. He says Lilith is held up in the old service tunnels that are blocked off after an earthquake. She carved out a little nest down there with one way in and one way out. A nest they're gonna roll on head first with their big guns. Amber asks how many uglies are down there. Dane says it's hard to say. Right. Ballpark me, dog. 5, 10, 100, 1,000? How good is your intel? Have you been down there yourself? What do you know for a fact? Because the fact is, you don't sound like you know much at all. And I'm getting the feeling like you're leading us into a trap. Spook-fed vampire trying to bait me? Once he divulged all he supposedly knew, I would say, thank you for this intel, sir. Then collateral his blood bag drinking. No sense keeping a vamp alive. Todd has me off too. He is far too overconfident based on sketch intel with a weak plan against the super vamp nest who is supposedly the queen of the continental US. You're not Blade, bro. Sit down. The crew says that they've hit nests like this before.
You got big guns, sweetheart.
A routine op, as they say. There is nothing routine about this. Dane cautions them that Lilith very well could have a deep posse, a large following, and that they should hit the nest during daylight to give themselves a sunlit escape should they accidentally walk into a certified blood rave. Oh, so you're saying attack the vampires during the day. Whoa, big brain over here. Of course, this means he won't be joining them. Or does it? Roll him up in some carpet, throw him in the back of the truck, and go. Stella and the hunters immediately drive to the mouth of the nest and begin their assault with basically zero planning, recon, prep, or training. I can't imagine this is gonna go well. The reasoning for their lack of prep is that Lilith is not gonna be chilling here for long, and once she leaves, they'll basically never find her again. I don't recall Dane mentioning this, or any evidence being provided that suggests that you don't even have until tomorrow to get a good night's rest before the job. I would certainly at least stake it out, so to speak, so that I had a rough idea of how many goons I might be dealing with. This way too, I could see whether the same goons came in and out the same exit. This would increase my confidence that there is only one way in or out, though there's really no way to tell. I thought about rigging Sunmaxes overhead in front of the entrance exit so that if this was the only way in or out, they'd be stuck inside until they starved to death. However, in vamp lore, that could take months, and if at any point those sun maxes turn off or are taken, they would escape. If they had a secret second exit, they would escape. But what you could do is rig the sun maxes over the single exit, set to motion activation. The vampires won't know that they're there until they step outside at night, trip the motion sensor, at which point the sun maxes reduce them to ash. Lilith really won't know what happened to the vamps, assuming her lair is much deeper inside the nest. Once the vamps are reduced to ashes, Stella fires off the leaf blower to dust off the X, making it look like nothing happened. So when the next batch of vamps came investigating their friends' disappearances, they walk into the same trap too. And on until Lilith comes out and is too torched. The only risk here is that the vamps are staggered coming out of the exits, to where if one lags behind enough, they would see their friend get torched and could relay the trap back to Lilith. I don't think this is much of a problem, as the vamps tend to move in unison, moving like goth Backstreet Boys. Just need to make sure that the ambush radius is wide enough so that when the V's walk out, you can dust the whole band with one flip of a light switch.
Bullets only slow them down.
Bullets only slow them down. Here, take this old dull blade. What the hell are you talking about? You blew that other vamp's f***ing head off. Seemed pretty effective to me. Only slow them down? Yeah, slowed him down alright. Todd is a god liability here, cutting his hands, splatting his blood everywhere, loudly cursing, kicking the metal sheeting down. Hey, we're trying to catch them by surprise, remember? The assault is a complete show. They're in way too deep, with too little light, with too many side passageways that the vamps can use to cut off their retreat. The vampires indeed use these side passageways to come around behind them, blocking Amber when she attempts to flee. Because the idea of having at least someone always watching a threat vector is totally beyond them. Todd also gets snuck up on and bit in the neck. Luckily, Amber, Paul, Stella, and the bitten Todd are all able to retreat into an open and lockable side room nearby. When Todd turns, Paul's too much of a coward to do what needs to be done, so Stella steps in to mercy cave his head in with a cinder block. What a fun evening. Their plan? Wait until nighttime when the vampires leave the nest to go hunt, then make their escape. Unless these vampires have the attention span of a goldfish, there is no way that they're leaving your room unguarded. Not after your coordinated raid on their nest. Sorry to say, but you came in too light, got snapped up, and now you're basically waiting to die. Oh look, Dane's here. On their way out, they gut shot a vampire, drag him back to base, interrogate him about Lilith's whereabouts, which I thought they already knew. He tells them nothing, so they let him go and track him back to his hidey hole in the alleyway. About this time, Amber reveals that she has 12 pounds of C4 in her backpack, which I'm guessing that they're gonna use to make a skylight in the building tomorrow morning. Now, I gotta wonder, why not blow the Queen's nest up, collapsing their only way out and forcing a full Los Sueños PD investigation into the adjacent tunnel system, like a Lilith Ready or Not DLC. There's no point whatsoever in attacking this building full of random vampires. I thought the fate of mankind depended on them killing Lilith. So what, you got ran out the first time. Reload, re-engage. In the car waiting until dawn, Paul tells Stella that before, his plan was to take Lilith down, then commit seppuku so he could join his deceased child in the afterlife. Now, after being so lucky as to run into a very attractive vampire victim yesterday, his new plan is to start over with her. Jesus, I don't even think it's been 2 weeks since she was holding Eben's disintegrating body in her arms. Actually, I do think it's about a year, but still. At high noon, Paul, Stella, and Amber break in and find 2 humans tied up. Ah, man, see, this is why you blow the building first. Then you don't have to accidentally discover the hostages, which makes you guilty and forces you to undertake a risky rescue op. I still think that they should have rigged the entire wall. It's simply too risky to go in and untie the damsels. Knock a wall down, and you'll have all the sunlight that you need at your back. Unsurprisingly, it's a trap. they shoot out the ceiling for some light, which realistically would never work. Stella dives for the detonator, which knocks the wall out, which they should have done in the first place, but whatever. This fries the vamps and gives them an escape route. The victim they rescued was originally a blood bag being held on Lilith's ship. All she knows is she saw army boots, and she thinks that Lilith was on the ship. That's it. Like I said, our hunters would never have known this, which is why attacking this building was not logical. Still, okay, Lilith has a ship. Well, she's not on it right now. She's supposedly in a collapsed metro area, so the plan doesn't change. Just then, there's a knock at the door. Dane presses his eyeball up to the slot to see who it is. No way am I peeking through that gun port. Nobody here is expecting company, which can only mean that bad things are on the other side of that door. You don't have to line your brain up with a peephole. You can just yell, "Who is it?" I'm shocked that a vampire realized that they can use guns too. The protags flee out the back and head straight for the cargo ship they suspect Lilith is on with what guns and ammo that they have on them, which mathematically does not add up. Take a guess how many jelly beans are in that jar. Okay, how much ammo do you have? The answer is not enough, even if every shot you fired landed in each of these T-box. This ship is headed for the Arctic Circle, for Barrow, Alaska to run a train on the new residents. Again, how many times can they get away with the oil fire excuse? Crazy. This is the 4th year in a row where every single person in Barrow vanished from a town-wide fire in the dead of winter. Must be all that seasonal depression from the 30 days of night driving people insane. There can't be that many people that want to live there, so I don't know how they keep repopulating it. I don't know, maybe the vampires are hitting another town. I say they should use what's left of Amber's C4 to take out the ship's rudder or propeller from the outside. She couldn't have used more than a pound or two on the previous building. For reference, this is 2 pounds of C4. 10 to 11 pounds should be sufficient to immobilize a ship of that size. Again, an explosion like that should draw in local authorities and the Coast Guard, at which point their game is through. Even if not, with their ship going precisely nowhere, you can recon and track the vampires' movements back to their LA-based lair, regroup, rearm, and hit it with more firepower. One thing is for sure, rushing in with the skin on their back and a few spare shells in their pockets is not gonna end well. They all sneak onto the ship, and the first thing that they witness is the vampires reviving a crispy vampire corpse by spoon-feeding it fresh blood.
And the Oscar goes to
30 Days of Night, Dark Days. Well, that sucks. Stella says they can come back, unless their heads are destroyed. Yes, of course. If you shoot a living thing in the head, it will die. Thank you, Stella. What would we do without you? Sneaking past all the humans getting drained. Stella, Amber, and Paul reach the bridge, where it's a human steering the ship. What? He tells them that the ship is headed to Wainwright, Alaska. Ah, okay, they are hitting another town. Guess there's like 600 to 700 people living there. Hey, Amber, maybe you want to not stand with your back to the dark corridor of a vampire-infested cargo ship? No? Okay. The man says they're holding his family hostage. He's got no choice but to do their bidding. I guess you're stuck between a rock and Amber wildly spraying her Uzi. Paul and Stella chase after her, but like, why? She's already dead. I think that they should have stayed on the bridge and attempted to sabotage the controls with bullets. No controls, no steering. No steering, and you might as well name this heap Titanic. Lilith's gonna be floating on a wood cabinet while her vamps succumb to the icy freezing water. Sorry to say, this was always your fate. Well, now you're fully encircled with basically no ammo left. Really, what was the plan here? Oh, they're gonna use the guns on themselves. Amazing. I for sure thought this must have been part of the plan. To bait the V's all into one location before they clack off or something. Nope. It was just to run into the vampire den unprepared and, end themselves to no consequence to the vampires. Wow, they can't even do that right. Paul and Stella get strung up, the FBI vamp cuts Paul's arm, Stella slips her restraints because they tied over her bandage like idiots, and performs a finishing kill on Agent Norris.
Finish him. Flawless victory.
She uses her thin white t-shirt caked in vampire blood to dress Paul's extremely large deep laceration, before telling him they need to stop this ship. Stop this ship? You could have done that back at the bridge. You could have done that before you got on the ship. I thought the plan here was to kill Lilith anyways. And how is Paul fine after that vertical cut on his forearm? I don't understand why the vampires only left Agent Norris with them. There can't be that many exciting things happening on the ship. You would think that bleeding these two out seems like it would draw a crowd. Those two witnesses at the motel drew more, and they hadn't assaulted your boat with guns. No. Oh my god. The mythical creatures of the night who possess super hearing heard us wailing on the boat like a bunch of wild monkeys. No way. Stella runs off into the ship, somehow ending up in Lilith's lair without running into a single other vampire. Where did they all go? Who knows? Apparently now Lilith has to run around by herself chasing this chick. Stella, knowing Lilith can smell her blood and track her down, jumps into Lilith's blood bubble bath, completely submerging herself. When the Big L walks up to the bath and looks up thinking that Stella must have parkoured up into the rafters, Stella strikes with her machete.
Right.
I'm sorry, how could you possibly know that Lilith was in striking range at that exact moment? You're submerged in blood, with your head down, blood that you can't see through. And the time it took you to jump out of the bath, Lilith easily could have stepped back a few feet. Vamps are supposed to be freaky fast, right? Think about it. The movie acts like Stella was crouched in the bathtub, knees tucked, head down. No way could she fully submerge herself in that position. Her back would be sticking up out of the blood. It would still be tough if she had simply laid back in the tub. But then that presents the problem of getting out quickly and striking. I bet you 10 out of 10 times, if I'm standing in front of a bathtub and someone tries to stand up really quickly to punch me, I am absolutely getting the first shot in. And that's with water. Blood is much slicker, especially on that metal tub. Stella would have to grab the sides while somehow holding onto the machete to push up, and then try not to slip with her footing. Realistically, Stella's struggling to get out of the tub. Lilith steps back a bit, Stella slips in the tub like a bumbling buffoon, then Lilith calls her vampire minions in to tear her limb from limb like Amber. But no, Stella's all covered in blood, standing over Lilith's decapitated body. All the other vampires just now rush in from playing an intense competitive game of hacky sack to find their queen dead. Out of respect, and seeing how totally bad Stella looks, the blood-craving vampires step aside to let the human covered in blood walk free after killing their queen. Insane! You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head in disbelief. I didn't think vampires abided by the necromonger rule of you keep what you kill. The vampires Erica Kirk to Lilith. Who could have seen that coming? Bro, you kill my queen, and I'm stringing you up as a blood piñata. This is some grade A bullshit. Stella returns to the bridge where the Coast Guard is requesting their location. She tells them the Coast Guard raids the ship, which goes the way of Roswell, and that the vampires were presumably taken to a secret base, and the whole incident thrown under a big rug. Stella herself returns to Barrow, where she digs up Eben's corpse and feeds him her blood in an attempt to revive him. It works, and unsurprisingly, the Eben vampire sinks his teeth into her neck. Stella's basically now the new Lilith, which, you know, sure. If I lost everything, maybe I would try the vamp side out too. F it. Revive my gal and poodle boy. Run some Dracula underworld type shit for a while. Not pay taxes. Maybe keep it ethical by dextering criminals and anyone who I disagreed with. I wonder if she's gonna tell Eben about her hot scene with Paul. Probably not. Ultimately, the survivors got insanely lucky that they found a survivor who knew Lilith was on a boat. At that point, sabotaging its propeller or steering was their only hope of stopping and exposing the vamps. For that reason, I would say the vampires in 30 Days of Night were beaten. Moral of the story, destroy the brain. And remember to download Cash Giraffe using my link. To get up to 3,999 gems is a welcome bonus, so you can earn rewards and help pay off those PC and console games you bought by playing mobile games.